So yeah, we were just chucking along there. Like, we were hoping still for a home birth, and I was doing everything I could to get my blood pressure down and to keep all my vital signs stable so we could have that home birth that I'd been dreaming of. But little did I know that, home birth was never going to be in the cards for me. At 40 weeks and 3 days, my vital signs all started taking a turn for the worst. My blood pressure was high. I started having my platelets started crashing, meaning that my blood couldn't clot. That was a big problem. And so all these things started happening at once. So really we got into this really terrible race against the clock, because the further I was into my pregnancy, the bigger these problems became. And as soon as these problems presented, around 40 weeks of being pregnant, it was really clear that the home birth was not going to be in the cards for me because of a disease that I had, that I was always going to have in pregnancy, called preeclampsia. Now, what my birth story is really about is how we dealt with this disease. And what's interesting is I didn't just have preeclampsia. I had a very rare form of another disease that's associated with it called HELP syndrome. And that stands for basically 4 different symptoms that all hit you at the same time. And that's having really high blood pressure, having a low blood platelet count, so your blood can't clot, having increased liver enzymes. And so when all these hit at once, this very, very scary disease has an infant mortality rate of up to 60%. So there was a 60% chance that my baby wasn't going to make it. And I didn't know that, at 38 weeks. I had no idea that was what was happening with my health. And I truly believe that if I hadn't been doing the internal work that I was doing, things with my birth would have turned out very different than they did. So my birth story really started, like I said, about 40 weeks and 3 days. And I woke up at about 4 in the morning with another headache, which was kind of bad news because I knew whenever I had a headache that my blood pressure was high. So I took my blood pressure and it was high again. And I knew something was just off. So I made the decision that day that it was going to be the day that, or at least it was my plan, that was going to be the day my son was born. So I woke my husband up, and I took a shower first because I wanted to do my hair and I wanted to put some makeup on, because in my head, it was going to be a 4-hour birth, which I forgot to put in my mind movie. I never put in my mind movie that it was going to be a 4-hour birth, but I would highly recommend that when you make your own, you put in there the amount of time that you want to visualize your birth, because I left out that slide. So my birth was not 4 hours, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I took a shower, I got ready, I woke up my husband, and my husband and my mom and I went to this all-night pancake house and got some pancakes, pigs in a blanket actually, because I knew that I wanted to have a really good solid meal before I went in and started this big effort of labor. Because of the condition that I was suffering from, I couldn't just wait for labor to start naturally. I had to have my labor induced. Because like I said, we were in a race against the clock to make sure that this baby came into the world healthfully. And I couldn't be pregnant anymore, because the longer I was pregnant, the more all my vital signs were crashing. So I didn't have a choice. And that morning I just knew it was the time to go. It was just kind of okay, we're gonna go have pancakes and we're gonna go. So we got to the hospital around 6 a.m. and they induced with Pitocin around 9:15 a.m. And the first 5 hours were like a breeze. I was loving life. I was trying to get my baby down. We had the music on. I was dancing. I was walking up and down the halls of the maternity ward. It was a breeze. And then around 4 p.m., the real contractions started to kick in, and things got, intense. Things got hot. And I had my room all set up to deal with this pain and these contractions. I had my mind movie playing. I had my candles, or my electronic candles, because the hospital doesn't allow real candles. I had my electronic candles, glowing in the background. I had my playlist. I even brought my aromatherapy. So, I didn't get my home birth, but I was able to create a lot of the things I was going to have at home, just bring those into the hospital, and we created a really sacred space, in my birthing suite. And that was cool, and that was important to me. And it kept my headspace in a really, clear, focused, able to handle whatever was going to come my way. because I had no idea at that point what was about to start coming my way. I mean, I had some signs that things weren't going to be good, but my health got really crazy and things got really, really crazy. Yeah, it was about 4 or 5 p.m. that the Pitocin contractions were really hitting hard. And for me, and it's different for everybody, the pain was just, really unbearable. It was about 10 times worse than I thought it was going to be. And I was ready for this, home birth, no medication, water birth. I was ready for that. And when my health didn't allow me to have that and we had to go the Pitocin route, I don't think I was really mentally prepared, because that's not exactly what I was preparing myself for. I was preparing myself for a home birth, not a Pitocin birth. So around 4 or 5 p.m., man, the contractions hit hard. And with that pain, my body, just because of its sickness, could not cope. My blood pressure went from 110/80 to 200/100, like that, as soon as those contractions hit. And then everyone panicked. The doctors rushed into the room. It was like everything was going a million miles per hour. I'm in so much pain, I can barely understand what they're saying, because I'm just, contracting and convulsing every 60 seconds. I try to breathe, I try to deal with it, but they're seeing all my vitals crash. And with my disease, there's a high probability that I could have a seizure. And if I have a seizure, my body's not getting blood to my baby. My baby could have brain damage. My baby could die if I seize. And so there was one way the doctors could stop me from seizing, and that was to give me another drug that was called magnesium sulfate. And they had to. There was no choice. We had to make sure the baby was safe, number one. And so I got the magnesium sulfate, and it was like insult to injury. It just gave me nausea, and it made the pain I didn't have the coping mechanisms anymore to deal with the pain that I was going through. So from that point, I just said, okay, it's time to get an epidural. I can't handle this pain anymore. I'm not going to be able to be here for my baby and do what my baby needs when it's time to push if I don't take care of myself right now. And so luckily, the anesthesiologist was in the next room. And I was like, okay, he's over there, please call him right now. Get him over here. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling. But then there was another problem. I mentioned that my blood platelet count was dropping. And if your blood platelets get below a certain number, most anesthesiologists will not administer the epidural. They won't give it to you. And as my platelets were dropping, we were kind of, again, racing against the clock to get the epidural before it dropped too low and he wouldn't give it to me, and I'd have to now stay in this space that I couldn't handle. So we rushed to get blood work, got the blood work back, and as soon as the nurse came in and I looked at her, I could tell that my platelets were just there. They were just high enough so he would give me the epidural, and he did. The anesthesiologist came in, and around 7:30 p.m. he gave me an epidural in my back, and for a minute everything was really, really great. I just got to relax, I got to breathe, I got to come up for air for a little bit, but that's when my water broke. And usually that's a great thing. It's a sign of, labor's progressing and it's really good. In my case, when my water broke, there was a meconium in it, which is your baby's first bowel movement. And it's a sign that the baby is in distress. So that meant that my baby could possibly be in distress, and it's not a big surprise with what we were going through, my heart rate being that high and everything. But they just had to monitor the baby very closely. So we kept making sure that his heart rate was between this, particular band of 110 to 150. And I swear his heart rate stayed at 120 throughout my entire 26-hour labor. No matter what was happening with me, with my health, when my blood pressure shot through the roof, when I was in incredible amounts of pain, somehow this child, I was crying talking about him, somehow this child was able to be the hero of this birthing story, He was able to be the one who was strong and knew everything was going to be okay, and keep his heart rate right where it needed to be, calm, collected, peaceful the entire time. So even though there was a sign of distress, I know that he he was really being the rock in the situation, and he was the one that was, I think, programmed in a way to know everything was going to be okay and everything was going to be peaceful. And I really can't credit enough, like, the work, the internal work, watching our mind movie every single day, making sure that he knew that I was there for him, and just connecting with him every day. That was the reason that he kept his composure, that he knew everything was going to be fine. That was the way he was programmed. That was what he believed, and so that's what happened. So the whole time, throughout the entire pregnancy, or throughout the entire labor, his little heart rate just ticked along at 120, no matter what was happening, and actually things got even more crazy, if you can believe it. It was about then that one of the senior attending doctors came into the room and was trying to manage my expectations and let me know that with my circumstances, because of my preeclampsia, because of the HELP syndrome, because of the drugs that I was on, and because of the meconium in my babies, in the water that had just broken, the chances of me actually giving a vaginal birth were going to be pretty slim. And that was pretty devastating news for me. Because remember, I'm the lady that wants to have the natural home birth with the water and the tubs at home and we're all ready to go. To hear that might not happen was really more than I could handle after what was going on. But there was kind of a belief that I held, you know, and an environment that I created in my little birthing suite. And so I not so kindly asked that doctor if she could leave my suite and just let things progress as they were going to progress. And it was one of the nurses who worked with me then. She looked at me and she goes, I really like how you stand up for yourself and you advocate for yourself. And you know, the whole team that was working directly with me, they were amazing. And they all, of course, commented on my mind movie, and they all ended up, you know, watching it a number of times. And they all read my birth plan. So everyone who was working on my team knew how important having a vaginal birth was to me. And they knew how important it was to create this space for my son to enter the world in a particular way. And they were on board. And I think they were just as motivated and inspired by my birth plan and by my mind movie and by my ability to advocate for myself and know what I want, that they were there supporting me. We were really a team. We were going to make it happen. Luckily for me, labor progressed, meaning that we got to the point where it was like, okay, I'm dilated all the way. We're ready to push. It's time to get this thing started. And I thought, dude, awesome, we get to push. This is like what you see in the movies. This is like, okay, I'm going to push a couple times. I'm going to give it all I got. And then I'm going to have my baby in my arms and everything's going to be okay. And we've made it. And it was like, as soon as they told me that it was time to push, I thought in my mind I had crossed almost like a miniature finish line. You know, I didn't have the baby yet, but I was there. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Unfortunately, it's not like you see in the movies. You don't just go in, push a couple times. Some people do, but I didn't. So what happened? 3 hours of pushing, of giving it everything, and I mean everything that I had. And I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and my whole team was there, my mom, my husband, my doula, everybody. We were just doing different positions, and it was just everything we had for 3 hours in the middle of the night after we'd been in labor for 14 hours. And the doctor came in, that same doctor, to check on me. And I had to have pushed the baby down, you know, a couple of centimeters. And they say whether you're -3 or +3. And I was -2 when I started. That's 3 hours. And when that doctor came in and she checked me, and she comes up to talk to me and she says, well, you've made absolutely no progress. You're still at a -2. Oof. To say that was devastating news was like an understatement, because I didn't think I had the energy to keep going. You know, I really didn't. And that was probably the lowest point for me, because it was the first time that I thought I was scared, you know, I was scared. And there was some sort of divine power that I found, this strength that I found. Before leaving my room, the doctor did give me one more piece of information. She said it was the hospital's protocol to only allow women to labor like this for 24 hours max before it's a mandatory C-section at this particular hospital. And to say I wanted her out of the room then was really an understatement. And I mean, my whole birthing team, everybody who had been in that room and who'd been working with me and had been watching my mind movie and watching how dedicated I was to this, they all knew that that wasn't going to happen. They knew, they had faith in me, they did. They just had to get the bureaucrats and the upper doctors who weren't there with me to agree with our vision that I could do this and that we could bring this baby into the world a particular way. And so it was at that point that we'd had the candles lit and the soft music playing and everything kind of going really harmoniously and calmly. But we just weren't making enough progress. So I was really, kind of down and out. And it was at that point that actually was my husband who grabbed my shoulders and looked me in the eye and he goes, baby, this is as good as you're gonna feel today. And it was true, things were probably only gonna get worse from there. He says, this is as good as you're gonna feel today. I know you can push this baby out, so let's just do it. And I look behind him and I see my mom nodding, saying, yeah, it's time, you've got to do it and you can do it. And I look at my doula and she's nodding and my mind movie's playing there. And I remember just all these visions that I had about the way birth should go. And like I said, it was like I got it was like someone came to help me. Like I had a strength. I found a strength then that I didn't think I had. And so what we did was, we said, enough with the candles, enough with the mood lighting. We opened, it was about 7 a.m. at this point, 7 or 8 a.m. We opened all the windows. We turned the playlist from the really soft birthing playlist to what I had saved on my iPhone as a party mix. We put the party mix on, and I think even at one point the nurses were dancing as we started just pushing, giving it everything that we possibly could, because my husband was right. I wasn't going to feel it any better than I did right then. It was going to be now or never, and it was up to me to do it. But it still wasn't happening very fast. It wasn't happening fast enough for the hospital. And so what happened was I had a resident doctor that was working with me, and she really was like on my team as far as making this baby come. She was helping me bring the baby down. When the other doctor came back to say, we're getting there, it's almost time to go for a cesarean, that the young doctor really went to bat for me. And she said, listen, we've seen this woman's birth plan. We've seen her vision. And she's going to make it happen. She's making progress, and it was the first time I'd actually made progress. We'd gotten the baby down a little bit. And I tell you this little triumph here, only kind of to take it away, because this is when I learned that my baby was coming what's called sunny side up. So as opposed to coming out with his face down, he was coming out with his face up. And you think, oh, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's still head down, right? Well, the problem was his spine then grates against my spine as it comes out the birthing canal. And the epidural can't help with that pain. So you're just kind of on your own. So here I am, like, experiencing this incredible pain again. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why does this hurt so bad? And they tell me, well, your baby wants to come sunny side up. He just wants to see the world face first. He doesn't want to see the world face down. And they're all kind of laughing like it's cute. And I'm thinking, this isn't cute. This hurts. I got the epidural, and I wanted to be pain-free. So I'm calling for the doctor, the epidural guy again. I'm like, please, can you help me? Can you help me? And he's like, yeah, there's nothing we can do for a sunny side up baby. That's just how they rock and roll. But again, I gathered strength from my team, who were just totally on board with my vision. And they said, you can do this, women do this every day. And the resident doctor, the young woman who was helping me, she said, listen, I'm gonna help turn this baby, and we're gonna get it down, and we're gonna get him out, and you're gonna have your baby today. You're gonna have your baby vaginally right here without a cesarean. You can do this. And that was it. From then, I pushed for about another hour, and just using the contractions, push the baby down, push the baby down, push the baby down. And that resident doctor who went to bat for me, she was the one who actually delivered my baby. And she was supposed to turn around and give the baby to the needed intensive care unit, but she knew how important it was. My dream was to have the baby on my chest when he was born. So she knew the baby was fine. So she broke hospital protocol and let me hold my baby on my chest as soon as he came out. And I got a moment what I had dreamed of. And I had my healthy baby boy. And he let out this scream, and it was like, yes, I'm here, you know? He was alive, and he was healthy, and he was exactly what I had hoped for. And they had to check him out because of all of the health problems that I had had, and the meconium and all that. And they had to check him out and make sure he was okay, so they did have to take him from my chest. But it just took him a moment for the doctors to all give him a clean bill of health, and he was 100% healthy as could be. 8 pounds, 9 ounces, 21 inches, pretty big baby. None of the hospital hats fit his head. He had a pretty big head. So I was kind of in a world of hurt, but my baby was every single thing that I had put in my mind movie, to a T, every single thing. He was healthy, he was happy, he was at peace, he was with me, he got to be on my husband's chest, and my husband got to cut his umbilical cord. He had become part of our beautiful world, which is exactly what I had asked for. And yeah, it was amazing. All the cliches are true. It's a love that you can never know until you're a parent. And I just wanted to stare at him, you know, forever. And his perseverance through the birth was what so amazed me. I just remember thinking, he was such a rock, he was such a superstar. For 26 hours, you know, that's a long labor. And going through all the different things that went wrong in my birth with my health, this child just knew it was going to be okay. And my birthing team all knew that, you know, I had a vision and we were going to make this happen, and everyone worked together to make it happen. And it was funny because even the little resident who delivered my baby, she's sitting there, you know, down helping turn him when he was coming out. And in between contractions, we'd all kind of relax. And she relaxed, and she'd be looking over, and she'd be watching my mind movie. And she didn't, of course, know it was called a mind movie. She's like, I just love this. And I'm like, I know, it's cool, right? She goes, yeah. She goes, I just love this. These pictures are beautiful, and, you know, I love this music. And I was like, yeah, I know. Then we go back to having a contraction, and she'd go back to turning, and I'd go back to, you know, concentrating. And it ended up being a crazy, intense, challenging experience, but probably one of the most, you know, beautiful experiences of my life. And I like to share this now because it helps me, like getting my story out. Like, I believe that I can help other people who are going through challenges, you know, in their journey towards motherhood. That I believe that by us women and moms sharing with each other like what we've gone through, we get strength from each other. And so to anybody who ends up watching this right now, I just want them to know that, you know, there are going to be challenges, and there are going to be things that you weren't expecting. But when those challenges come, and they will come, when they come, it's more about how you react to them, you know, and how you handle them, how you prepared yourself to handle them. And that's why, you know, I wanted to share this story. And then I got the idea. I thought, well, you know, I've shared my story, and that's one thing I can do. But there's something more I actually want to do for anybody who's watching this, and that's to give them a mind movie for birth, you know. And so I sat down with my friend, who's really an expert in the law of attraction, and she and I put together a generalized mind movie for birth. Now it will work for anyone, and it's You know, it's a beautiful way to start visualizing what you want for your birth. Now, I don't know what kind of birth you want, and it's not specific just, you know, to you. Maybe it doesn't have your personal pictures in it or the music that you would choose, but this is something that I put together for you. I'd love for you to use it. I'd love for you to watch it. I think that it'll help. It'll help you whatever stage, you know, you're on in this journey. And I want to give it to you as a gift. And I'd also like for you to meet my son. And I'm not sure exactly how to do it. Maybe we could put like a box to the side of this video. They could enter their email, and we could send it to them somehow. I'm not sure if that'll work. Or if, you know, maybe if they're watching this from YouTube, they could click on a link and go to a web page where they could download it. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but if you know, if we could figure out a way that I could share this mind movie and they could download it for free, that would be awesome. And I'd also like to share a video with my son Bo, because he is he's the proof, right? The proof is in the pudding, and I'd love for them to meet him as well.